have to say is AI, right? AI. Everybody pay attention now because Stephen Dickens is here and he's our guest and he follows all of this very closely, CEO, principal analyst at Hyperframe Research. And really everybody always wants to know about the AI revolution and where we really stand. I mean, this is real, it's underway, right?
So the AI trend, we took a blip a couple of weeks ago with DeepSeek. We're back. NVIDIA's back where they were. They've recovered their losses. So I think what we're seeing is the tailwinds are still there for the AI trade.
I saw something else came out today from China. I saw it on Twitter, and it wasn't DeepSeek. It was another name, but then it had suddenly even more followers than DeepSeek. I mean, or whatever, more activity. But I think we're going to see a lot of these moments where something gets, until you really know things are reliable, you shouldn't be loading them right on your phone either, right?
Exactly. From an app perspective, you shouldn't be looking to download these. We saw Grok come out this week from XAI with their 3 model. That's a trusted US company, obviously part of what used to be Twitter, what's now X, and Elon Musk's range of companies. XAI, fantastic large language model, really interactive user interface. So I think as users and consumers are starting to think about these apps, they should certainly be thinking about trusted sources and really where their data's going, Nicole.
All right. So, I mean, let's talk more about Musk's XAI. I mean, Grok 3, you know, why is this the moment here for a name like this?
So I think what the interesting takeaway for me from what Elon and his team have been able to do is the 19 months that they've been able to build out. Obviously, we've seen ChatGPT, we've seen others, Gemini from Google, we've seen AWS. We'll talk about them with their Nova models and some of the things that they've been doing. But what we're seeing is the speed at which Elon and his company XAI has been able to build out this colossus supercomputer, hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs, which goes back to the tailwinds we're talking about with the AI trend, and being able to invest and then stand up a frontier model that in all the benchmarks that XAI were sharing when they launched this on the 17th, put it at the cutting edge. So that the point you originally made, the speed of innovation, the speed at which these models are coming out.
Yeah, and that's been a big part of it because there were questions about, you know, the big AI players and maybe sort of the trickle-out effect and what other names could be more interesting instead of just, you know, NVIDIA all the time, right? You also, by the way, do you think that Elon Musk and Sam Altman have a better relationship these days? I don't know. Any thoughts there? Because he started to show interest, right?
Well, I think the interesting piece, I went down this rabbit hole based out of Delaware. There's this ruling called the Revlon rules, which talks about how a board needs to react when an offer is tabled.
Right, and Musk made the offer with the consortium for OpenAI, right?
So I think it's less about the acquisition, it's more around getting disclosure, getting some of those pieces for his other lawsuit that he has, where he's looking to.
Oh, interesting.
So I think it's a plain dual chess play rather than an acquisition play.
Well, these guys are very good at this. I mean, they're all very smart. Hopefully, there's room for everybody to do great things. That being said, there was a lot of talk about Intel and maybe a breakup of Intel. It was enough to give Intel a boost, only to have it then pull back. Right now, week to date, Intel's still up 8%. What do you think? Is there more value in a broken up Intel?
So I think Intel's early in its journey with the lab. They've got some breakthrough wins with AWS for some of the stuff they're doing there. 18A is coming. What I hear about that is all positive. They're going to probably beat TSMC to the market for that. I think where we're looking at is to build out a fab facility. We're talking about ASML machines. They're $350 million each, Nicole. So it's a build it and they will come strategy.
Right.
I think Pat Gelsinger was right in where he was trying to keep IFS as part of Intel. And I think what we're seeing is if Intel's board is given time and we can fill that void that was left by Pat Gelsinger, that strategy is going to come right. I think there's also a geopolitical angle to this. Obviously, TSMC is based in Taiwan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you
next.
Right?
There's a challenge there.
Broadcom, you had Taiwan Semi involved, and you know they want everything here at home.
So I think a foreign buyer is going to go the same way as Nippon Steel trying to buy US steel.
Right.
I don't see a foreign buyer.
In the end, I think Nippon became just an investor in U.S. Steel.
So we might
versus
see
trying to buy it over.
collaborations.
Right.
Yeah, we might see collaborations.
Yeah.
I think what we're likely to see
Right.
is the CHIPS Act money and some of the strings that were attached to that,
Yeah.
and the Trump administration wanting to keep Intel on Team USA.
You mentioned AWS. Tell me a little bit about, is that going well for Amazon? What do you think?
So I was out at their event last year, just
Yeah.
after Thanksgiving. The team graciously gave me a deep dive this week. We went deep on everything AWS and AI. They've got these Nova models, 6 frontier models, 4 for reasoning, 2 for content creation, doing fantastically in the benchmarks. So I think there's a play there to put AWS in that model discussion. But then they've also got this bring your own large language model with
Right.
Bedrock. The team demoed what they're doing with DeepSeek running on AWS. So and according to those guys, they've got 2 or 3 US companies now with those systems in production. They were up within the week, Nicole. So as soon as DeepSeek came out over the weekend, they were doing a demo to me on that Friday of running DeepSeek on AWS's Bedrock service.
So they say, I saw someone say, if you're not using AI every day, you're going to be left behind. Okay, I'd love to hear what you think about that statement. And then I think about all these companies that are coming up with this and coming up with that. And, you talked about the 18A chip, and we're talking about the large language model, and the monetization of AI. I know whether or not, I'm using AI every day, but these companies have to make money in the end. What about the monetization of AI?
Well, we saw a few of the big companies, the Meta.
Which ones seem to be making more money on it?
Well, we saw Meta, we've seen Microsoft, we've seen Google, we've seen AWS. We saw all the CapEx spend, over 300 billion of CapEx that these guys are projecting to spend this year. So you asking about monetization is exactly the right question. I think it's going to be embedded in our lives. So the way I describe it is, do you want to be in the 1980s using the PC or using a typewriter?
Right.
I think we're at the start of that inflection point. From the app, I literally just having this conversation with somebody else. From an app perspective, we're at the moment when the iPhone launched in 2007. We're going to see that unlock, and the monetization is going to be embedded, whether we're talking Salesforce, ServiceNow, all of the companies I'm chatting to, Nicole, are embedding AI into their core products and services. So is it going to be an extra monetization, or is it going to be table stakes?
Right, understood. Because the CapEx spend is huge. We know that they're spending.
Yes.
And then, you want to know how they're going to make that money. I mean, and you talked about some of the chips, and then there was the DeepSeek scare. Are they doing it for cheaper, easier, faster? So meantime, you mentioned Salesforce, ServiceNow. I had a guest on who talked about trying to move away from the names like NVIDIA and go more to like a Snowflake, like a Palantir. Where does AI go next in the world of software, for example?
Well, we're re-architecting the data stack for these applications. I've been chatting to the likes of Teradata and Oracle and some of those companies, also with Databricks, what they're doing. And what's happening is we're completely re-architecting how that data stack comes to life. One of the terms that AWS used in their briefing with me, AI-ready data, and I love that term. It's really, how do we get all of this data? The comment that one of the lead architects at AWS gave me was 80% of the data on their platform is not AI-ready yet. So it's how do we re-architect that data?
Right.
That's a Snowflake play, that's a Databricks play, that's an Oracle play. That's how do we get this data ready, curated, fresh, and accurate so we can put it into a large language model.
Databricks, Oracle, Snowflake.
Did I mention enough names there, Nicole?
Attention, folks, because he's spewing them all out here. Thank you so much, Stephen Dickens. Great to see you. Is there anything else about AI that I didn't ask you that you wanted to just add in for today?
So I think for me, Nicole, it's just, this is going to be a foundational layer. I talked about AWS. I think we're going to see it broader than the NVIDIA than you mentioned. We're going to see that layout across a number of players, and this is a rising tide, raises all boats.
Stephen Dickens, CEO, Principal Analyst at Hyperframe Research. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.